Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter at Hawk Blogger, and lately you can also find me on Instagram. I'm just starting to build there. I'm like the last person in the world to get on Instagram because you know what? I can only do so much social media, and that's just the reality. So, but you can find us there. The show is streaming live there as well, so we're growing the community. And I got to tell folks, there's a reason that we're going to be coming to folks in an afternoon for a morning show. I'll explain that in a reason. In fact, I'll actually ask our guest to explain that in a second. Before I bring him on stage, a lot of folks talk about that they want their play on the field to speak for them. And I thought that might be a good way to introduce him. So let me know if you can tell who this guy is by these two plays.
Pressure coming in again. Goff hit as he throws, and it's intercepted. There is Trey Brown, open to the end zone, and he's going to score. Second and 5. Burrow, timing route, intercepted. Chase the intended receiver, and Trey Brown in front of him for the pick.
That, my friends, is what you call letting your play on the field speak for you. Our guest today, the one, the only, Trey Brown, big play Trey of the Seattle Seahawks. Man, it is fantastic to have you on. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot to talk about, and I was joking before that, it's a morning show. We're coming here in the afternoon. Tell folks what you were doing from 8 to 12 today.
Oh man, yeah, we're we're working. We got OTAs right now, from 8 to 12. So I start my morning up pretty early, get up at 6, get up around there at like 7 o'clock, and we're done with the day at like 12.
I did yoga for like an hour and went on a like 2-hour bike ride. But I think the difference between you and me, I'm like 48. If I look at a carb now, I will gain weight after today. So I have to imagine, man, you're getting after it, and it's great to hear you putting in this work in the off season. But I started with those two plays because those were amazing plays, huge pivotal plays in the season. First two interceptions of your career. And we talk about the one against Jared Goff, which broke a streak. He hadn't had an interception, and it was about to break a record for most pass attempts. That interception, you don't only pick it, but you take it back for a touchdown. Talk about that play for a second.
Oh man, play I'll never forget. It was a very intense game. You go to Detroit, man. The fans are wild, man, and it's just they compete. As you see, they were a really good team. Throughout the whole season. They made it deep into the playoffs. Just a good team. So us going in there in that environment, knowing that it was a back and forth type of game. We just lost our first game, and knowing we had to bounce back versus a really good team. And I remember me and Jay Levis, we was communicating. He gave me the signal, where it turned me into a trap corner. And I seen the running back. I seen the receiver go away. Then I seen the running back coming out the backfield. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take the running back in. And so as soon as I looked, I took the running back in. Then I looked up and I seen the ball like at the last second, and you could see the way that I cradled the ball. I was like, oh, like I was kind of surprised. And then I looked up, there was nobody in front of me, man, and I just took it 6, man. And it was pretty big at that moment. We needed that.
Did you end up with that ball after that game?
I did. I did. That game for me was a pretty crazy stat line for me. I tell you that.
Yeah, well, you went, I think, back-to-back sack and interception
Right.
in that game. So, I mean, fantastic game. Where's that ball? Did you give it to somebody? You keep it?
I kept it. It's in my back home in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's with the rest of the balls. So that's a meaningful game right there for me.
Well, and you mentioned there, I think you said Julian Love gave you like a pre-snap,
Signal.
yeah, signal. I think one of the things that I've noticed about you as a player, including just the way you talk about the plays and how you see the game, you're a smart guy. Like, you are a smart dude, and it stands out. And you're not only an excellent athlete, but you're a smart guy. And Julian, I think, has the same
Yeah.
persona. Like, he comes out that way. How does that affect, like, the way you approach the game? Like, how much does being a smart guy help you play the position?
Man, the more you know, the easier the game is for you. You know, you talk about the game, it's a lot in the game, but if you if you learn the formations, what they do out these formations, you know, what teams like to do, you know, and you got to learn you got to learn who you're going against. You know, if you got a guy who's a deep ball guy versus a guy who can run the whole nine, you know, that could that could, you know, help you understand how this game is going to go, you know, as far as a player. You know, if you got a quarterback who only likes to throw the deep ball, for example, you know, I take Russ. He loves the deep ball. You know, I watched his film, you know, back when he was in Seattle. He's not gonna dink and dunk with you all day. So you're expecting that ball to come to you, and that you got to get downfield. So like the more you know and understand how teams and QBs and how other players work together, the easier the game would be for you.
You got a new head coach, and he also, everyone says, smart guy. I don't know, have you had a chance to meet your new coach yet?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, man. You love him. Everybody loves him, man. He's a
So,
team. He's a
tell us
team guy.
about your first impression, of a new coach, big change this offseason.
He was serious, you know. He was serious at first, you know, which is it's understandable because you gotta set some boundaries and lay some ground, you know, for you coming in and having a head coaching job and this would be your first job. So came in serious, you know. Then these first couple weeks he kind of eased up on us, which is he's still a serious person. He means ball, but man, he's just fun to be around. You know, he understands his players and he tries to understand everybody and get along with everybody differently. So you got to love that about him.
Do you notice anything? I mean, obviously, you guys are way early. I don't even know if you're doing any installs at this point, but Uh, there's some reputation for Mike McDonald that his schemes are a little bit more expect a little bit more of his players. And then, as a fan, I kind of watch the draft. First player they pick, Byron Murphy, graduated in 3 years, came to school with associate's degree.
Right.
Christian Haynes got a master's. You got like a lot of smart guys, and I'm starting
Right.
to wonder, do you sense that the direction of the defense, the direction of the team is maybe going to be a little bit more sophisticated than it's been in the past?
Yeah, it's a little more to the defense, but once you get it down, it's a lot. It's a lot easier, and and everything works together. You know, and you, it just everything ties, like the D line ties in with the linebackers ties in with the backs, the safeties, the corners, and then so once you got everybody, you know, on the court, everything becomes so easy and understanding. Like so you understand why we're doing this versus this. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a lot easy. So I mean, it could seem hard at first, you know, and it's a lot that he's throwing at us. But man, once you get everything down, man, it's gonna be a fun year. It's gonna be fun to watch.
You also Carl Scott was one of the guys, DB coach that stuck around, was
Yeah.
kept, and talk about Carl Scott. I mean, what kind of coach is he, and what did it mean for him to come back?
Man, means a lot. Carl Scott is a guy, you know, he takes his time with his players. Like I said, he's also a guy who, you know, he teaches everybody differently because he understands not everybody's the same and not everybody picks up information the same. So he's always willing to give his time and take his time. And he knew, you know, like we were a young like secondary, and so he knows us the best. So it made more sense for him to come back. You know, we've already been with him. He knows a lot that's going on, so we stuck with that. It was good that we stuck with K Scott.
Uh, that play against Joe Burrow, as well. I mean, that was teaching tape right there. I mean, it was unreal.
Thank you.
Play to watch. I'd love to hear a little bit about that play from you, and also, well, I'll stop there. Let's hear about that play. How did that come about? Going up against Jamar Chase, one of the best receivers in football.
Man, I knew what I was going up against. You know, him and T. Higgins. You know, T. Higgins, you can't forget about him. Really good receiver. Jamar Chase, really good receiver. And I knew that Jamar Chase, he's a deep ball guy. You know, he takes the top off. You let him, and so I know I was singled up 1-on-1 over there, and I just felt like, yo, this is the time where they're gonna take it deep. You know, and so I saw him give a little release. Then he gets to running, so I'm like, oh, let me beat him to the spot. So as I beat him to the spot, we both looked back and I was on top, so I was able to look back inside of my shoulder. But one thing that I wanted to do, because I know that there's an imaginary red line, you know, that you're running down the field with, and they're taught to run on that imaginary red line and hold your line. So I was like, if I can get him off this line, so where Joe Burrow is putting this ball, I will replace Jamar Chase, and he'll be throwing it to me instead of Jamar Chase. So once I got in contact with him, I pushed him off a little bit off that imaginary red line, and I became in that area. And then as soon as I turned around, the ball was right in my chest, and it was just it was beautiful, you know, because 9 times out of 10, it seems like a back shoulder, but the way I pushed him off the line and I turned, it looked like a back. It was a back shoulder to me the way I pushed in. So
Mm-hmm.
I played it very well, and yeah, that was a that was a good play.
You guys were as a unit were dominant, not only in that game but the week before against the Giants, and it looked like, okay, something's happening here. This team can be on defense can really take a step forward, especially the secondary. You know, you, Spoon, Tariq, all those guys just look like a young, aggressive crew with a ton of athleticism. And then it didn't sustain for the year. I'm wondering, like, what's your diagnosis? Why didn't that happen? What is it going to take to get back to it?
I mean, you know, with the we just had to stick to our identity as who we were, you know, and go back to having fun. We said that once we start having fun, I feel like we're one of the best secondaries in the league. You know what I mean? And we went through some tough times last year, and we kind of got away from that identity of who we were, and while we're playing the game, you know, and that's something we vowed to be different. You know, coming into this year, we're not worried about what's going on last year, what happened last year, with who, what, and where. So we're vowing to be like this year, and like I said, you know, it's all good. It's all fun and dandy, you know, because it's like the honeymoon. You know, we talk about what we're gonna do, and it all feels so good. But how long can we sustain that and be together for like the whole year? You know,
What's that corner room like?
and it's fun, you know, competitive, very fun. You know, you got all different type of personalities in there. Everybody's good at something, you know, and it's just it's just a competitive room. I tell you that.
Yeah, well, and you now, not kind of unexpectedly added a couple rookies in the draft, both from Auburn,
Right.
and talk about what that is for you. You know, as a vet, I know it's probably funny for you to think of it yourself as a vet at this point, but third year in the league,
Fourth.
fourth
Yes,
year in the league, fourth year in the league, and now you've got some young guys in there. They're probably, hoping to learn a thing or two. You also want to excel and get better yourself. So how do you approach that when you got new guys that are looking to get snaps themselves?
Yeah, it's all about competing, you know, but it's also about bringing the next guy along with you. You know, how do you know if you're at your best if the guy you're going against not at his best? You know what I'm saying? So it's like I
Mm-hmm.
want you at your best for me to be my best, and we compete together. And you know, whatever happens, happens. You know, and that's just the best way to look at it. You know, it's a game at the end of the day, and you also want to help the next person because we're a team, and so you got to make sure they're on the same page, and we're all in this together, whether anybody like it or not.
Have you had a chance to meet those guys yet?
No, haven't met those guys yet, but I'm
Yeah.
excited to meet those guys.
Yeah. So that'll be probably in a week or two whenever you guys get back on the 20th. So can we play a little game? Will you give me a little bit of leeway? We'll play a little game, but the game's pretty simple. You have to guess whether this quote came from a professional draft analyst or came from me. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. First quote. Potential backup cornerback who could earn his keep if he makes it on special teams. but he must convince teams he has enough value as a backup slot corner to provide roster flexibility.
That's an analyst. That's not from you.
You're one for one. Okay. Now another one. Number 2, Trey Brown was the flashing light of this game. He made a handful of smart, athletic, quality plays at corner. His tackle in overtime was one of the best Seahawks defensive plays in years. He read the throw, broke hard on the ball, and made a tackle so good it will be shown to high school, college, and pro players across the country as teaching tape.
Was this you against the Steelers?
Yeah. Steelers. That was one of the best tackles I've seen in a long time.
I appreciate you. That was one of my favorite plays. I'll tell you that.
Well, and I didn't know much about your game, to be honest. I mean, I'd read a little bit, and I saw you in that Steelers game, your first game, and your coverage was fantastic. And you made that tackle, and I'm like, holy crap, we got a real one here.
Yeah.
So that I've been a fan since.
Thank you.
All right, next quote. Brown is undersized, and his aggressive nature is a double-edged sword. He projects as a nickel corner.
That's not from you, it's Samuels.
Okay. Next question before we get to the next quote.
Okay.
How many snaps do you think you've played at nickel corner in your career in the NFL?
Never played it. It's crazy because coming out the draft, I kind of fell so far because a lot of people thought I was going to be a nickel, but things happen for a reason. I'm glad I landed here because they saw me as a corner. And it was like, I remember Pete saying, if anything happens, we can move him to nickel, if corner doesn't work out for him. But corner worked out for me.
Okay. Next quote. Trey Brown is a sleeper that people are not giving enough attention to. He's going to rise and be a solid starter for this team.
That's you. That's you.
You got it.
Yes,
you got it. You're hitting all these so far. All right. Last one. I see these coverage stats for him, and it looks good until you realize how many of the incompletions are going to turn into penalties in the NFL.
I remember seeing that coming out the draft. That's from an analyst. It's crazy.
It is.
Exactly. Man.
What do you think about that quote?
I think it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just playing in the Big 12, I mean, it was a lot. The Big 12 versus playing against like going against the SEC. You've seen a lot of flags versus the Big 12, and I'm a physical person, so I tend to be, on my players like glue for real. So it may seem like a flag to them, but I've never. It was just that kind of bothered me the most. You know what I'm saying? That was one of those things that bothered me. But I tell you as a player, which I tell you, going through that injury, I kind of got forgotten about. We drafted Reek, Reek is a really good player, really great player. Then we drafted Spoon, which is really good. And then it's like you got those two who's really good, but then everybody seems to forget about me, and I know last year, my rookie year, I made a lot of plays. Then I didn't really play my second year because of the injury. Then last year, I was able to come back on the scene and show you guys that I was that same player as my rookie year, and I made a lot of plays. We had the interception. Interception versus the Lions, that was a key play. Then we had the interception versus Joe Burrow. Then not to mention the play to give us a chance to win the game against T. Higgins, the PBU on the sideline, to give us the last one. Then I can keep going. You had the forced fumble. I know it was down 14-3 going into the half for the Ravens. I had a forced fumble on Odell, to give us a potential chance to cut the lead down to 3. And man, I could just keep bringing up plays, but it seems like everybody forgets who I am as a player. But as long as I don't forget who I am, and I just keep going and I just keep showing everybody, that's all that matters. I see the talk, I see the chatter, but I know that I'm one of the, and I've said it before, that I'm one of the best corners in the league. I don't have the name, and that's fine with me. That's okay.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people forget and sleep on you as a player?
I think some people, a lot of people, and there's people who don't, because you got students of the game, and then you got people who are just fans of excitement. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
then like, so you got people who know, oh, I know he's a great player. And then you got other people who just excited to see, different type of things. And it's like, I can't do anything about that. You know what I'm saying? But I can just go out there and show you guys that I make plays after plays. And that's all I did last year. And can't wait to do it again this year.
There's this thing in like with comics where there's like, hey, there's comics that people like the comedians really respect. Maybe not everybody else gets it, but
Right.
but comedians really respect the craft. I'm curious for you, do you find that it's other corners, other receivers, other or coaches? Who do you think sees your value the most outside of you?
My teammates, it was coaches definitely seen coaches, my teammates for sure, and uh, players from other teams. I've had, guys come up to me like, yo, I see you this year, play the Browns. I got one of my guys over there, just for an example, I see what you're doing, man. Keep going. Even from the Cowboys, I'm proud of you. You see those things, and it's like, man, those guys really see me out here, really see me playing. And it's like, you look at my resume versus some of the a lot of these receivers out here, and then it's like you see what I've done, you know what I'm saying? But it's okay not to be talked about because it's on film, and that's all that matters.
As much as we've talked about your quality as a player,
Mhm.
everyone's got things that they can improve on. They want to get better at. What are you trying to improve this offseason? Is there one or two things that you're trying to get better at this offseason?
Yeah, there's always things you want to get better at. I want to be a bruising tackler this year. I need to get back to that. Because I remember my rookie year, my second year, I really didn't play. I played 5 games my rookie year, and then I sat out my second year, so I really didn't didn't see the field. And I know coming into college, there was a stat I seen throughout my year at college. I almost had like 200 tackles tallying up, and I really didn't play my freshman year. So if you do the math of that, like that's a lot of tackles, and I was just out there just coming down, just hitting people, and that's what I want to get back to. Add that back to my game, and just improve on just making those big time plays as tackling.
Is there a guy on the team that you think maybe people are sleeping on outside of you? Someone that you think is maybe an up and comer, or you don't think gets as much attention as they deserve?
Just at any position.
Yep.
Um, he doesn't. Does he? Does he have to play? He doesn't have to play.
Totally up to you. Does not have to play.
It's two guys, I give them Aesop Winston and definitely Derek Young, man. Those guys, work hard, very great, good players. Aesop has hands. I think he has some of the best hands on the team. If you see that guy, if you see what he's done in practice, man, you'd be like, wow, who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? If he was drafted, and then you can see what he do, man, he's a really great player. And Derek has been injured, and he's just a hard worker. So those are the guys I give that definitely the name to. And I see those guys all the time.
You got a chance to play with Bobby Wagner last year, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, obviously Jordan Brooks. All
Right.
those guys moved on. It leaves a little bit of a void from a vet leadership kind of perspective when things go wrong, and Bobby's the guy getting people together and saying this is not the level of play we're gonna hold each other to. Who are the guys that you think can step into that void and be leaders for
Um,
this defense?
as you see, you got Chinna. You got T Dot. You got guys like those guys and J Love. Um, hopefully, I'm not missing anybody, but those guys, and honestly, we've all been holding ourselves accountable. You have guys who don't really talk like, hey, we gotta, you know what I'm saying? Let's finish. Let's keep stacking. You know what I mean? So it's good to see that everybody's holding everybody accountable. When something's off or something's going on, that's really good to see. And when everybody feels like they can be a leader and hold themselves accountable, they can hold everybody else accountable.
Can you tell folks who Beverly Brewer was?
Oh man, Beverly Brewer, that was my mother, my rock. I say that all the time. I tell you, the Bengals game, it's crazy. That was the day she passed away, and it was like that was one of my best games that I've had. You know, I just had plays after plays being made, and she was all I could think about. You know, I try not to think about it so much that it was on my mind that day, but I was like, man, this isn't a coincidence, you know, that all of this is happening, you know, for no reason. And so, man, she raised me on her own, you know, along with my two sisters, and very happy woman, you know, even though she went through a lot, she taught me how to persevere. You know, she went through so much, but she never showed it, and that really taught me a lot. Like, you know, if my mom went through these things along with being sick as a woman, she showed me that I can get through anything. You know what I mean? That anything is not impossible to do. Everything is possible if you put your mind to it and you put your will to it. And so I give a lot of shout out to that woman, you know, because she instilled a lot into me, and I love her forever.
What do you think she would? How do you think she would feel about watching you play in the NFL now?
Man, she'd be happy, the loudest, you know, the loudest woman out there. I'll probably hear her through the whole crowd. You know, she was always the loudest woman I could hear all the time, and it's just crazy just seeing all different type of people come to me and talk to me about my mom, like doctors from this place, that place, any place possible. You know, I get a message, and your mom is really proud of you. She's always talked about you. You know, she knew you was gonna make it, and that really meant a lot to me because my mom was really a believer.
What's the 51-yard line?
51. My mom passed away when she was 51 years old. So that's when I go there and I pray all the time. You know, it's like she's alongside with me. You know, and we always get a prayer right there, and I make sure, you know, I can feel it. You know, I can feel it right next to me, and it just makes me feel a lot calmer when I get out there.
All right. Now, I've got other guys that are co-hosts on our show, and
Right.
one of them is obsessed with burgers. So I need to ask you, do you have a favorite burger chain?
Out here, I it's a lot of people talk about dicks, you know.
You can speak freely. We
Yeah, a lot
want
of people
honest
talk about
takes
those
here.
guys. I just haven't had them enough. But I tell you what, I, it's kind of hard for me to find a burger spot out here. Really,
Mm.
Dick's is pretty good, but I'm kind of southern from the south. I need a little more, you know.
Well, I got something for you on that, but before I
Okay.
do that, if it wasn't from here, what's your favorite burger chain?
I'd say I'm not really this crazy because I'm really a Chinese food, Asian food
Okay.
guy. But I'd say like Brahms. If you ever heard of Brahms, a
Okay. All
Whataburger.
right. All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. If you're ever looking for a burger in the Seattle area, you're just having a craving, Red Mill. Red Mill
Red
is the
Man.
place to
Okay.
go. You
Red
will,
Man.
as long as you don't have a peanut allergy, because they use
Okay, for
peanut
sure.
oil. But trust me, you'll be good. Um, Trey, anything that I don't want to keep you too much longer. You got a lot going on, and I appreciate you coming on. Anything we haven't talked about that you think people should know, either about you or about the Seahawks team that's coming together?
Oh yeah, the Seahawks team is going to be very different from what you've seen last year. I tell you that much. You know, everybody's gonna love Mike McDonald, the whole coaching staff. You know, you'll see in training camp the intensity, the energy, and I can already tell. Um, it's gonna be a really fun team this year. You know, everybody's gonna be really gelled together, man, and it's just gonna be exciting to see.
Love it. Everybody, that is Trey Brown, your cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks. One of the best to do it, and only going to get better.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
bars raising, man.
You
We're
know,
expecting
thank
more and more.
you.
So, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for being a great Seahawk and repping the city. And looking forward to watching you again this year.
Of course, thank you. Anytime.
All right, man. That is Trey Brown of your Seattle Seahawks. Man, this guy is. I watch guys come on the field all the time as corners, and this is a guy that the first time I saw him play, his technique was on point. His physicality was there. He is an athlete. He's reading plays, making breaks on the ball. And I see guys all the time, and they don't have those instincts. They don't have that capability. And for him to do that in his very first game in the NFL on the road against Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, that was a bonus, but just a smart guy and a great athlete. 4'4", 40 guy, 39-inch vert, like just a really good athlete. And I think that he's the kind of player that when Mike Macdonald gets his hands on Trey Brown, I think we're going to see the best of him. The best is yet to come with Trey Brown. I'm a big believer in what he has to offer this team. And people also don't know, he came into the league, people thought he was going to be a kick returner because he did a lot of that in college. If you watch that Detroit game, you saw him take that pick back. There wasn't a lot of people he had to make miss, but this guy's a dynamic player with the ball in his hands as well. So I think that this is I still think this is the best cornerback room in the division for sure. And well, I guess the Rams made some changes. I could kind of debate that, but this has definitely the potential to be, and they're the youngest. So I think Trey Brown is a key part of this team. This is a guy who's going into his final year of his contract. I didn't bring that up, could have talked about it, but reality is the answer is always going to be the same there. Yes, they think about it, but he's just got to go out there and ball this year. And then the contract and all the business stuff will take care of itself. I think he's very fortunate that this change has been made with Mike Macdonald. I think that he is going to grasp this defense faster than some of the other guys, maybe even in that locker room. And I think he's going to flourish. So this is a guy that, for me, was someone I reached out to and was hoping that he'd have some time to come on the show, and was happy that he could do it. They're doing OTAs. He's got working out all day long. And, for him to make time also speaks to what kind of person he is. And you heard him talk about his mom. This is a guy who lost his mom sophomore year of college, a big part of his life. And the way that he honors her, I think, speaks also to the kind of person he is. So one of my favorite answers during that interview was the question I asked about the rookies and how do you handle, you've got more guys in the locker room. And this is something that's always fascinated me with NFL players. It's different than college. It's different than other places. This is for your livelihood. How do you handle it when someone comes in there and they need to learn from you, or they need to learn, but them succeeding could come at the expense of you? And the best players I've ever known, professional players I've ever known, all have the same answer. And he had that answer, which is, I think I'm the best. I think I'm one of the best, if not the best. And I want to be surrounded by great players and compete. And so if I've got some terrible corner that I'm beating out, what does that say about me? Do I really know that I'm great? Am I really competing? Not really. So for him, it's about raising the level of the cornerback room overall, and then demonstrating that he's still one of the best, if not the best, in a great cornerback room. The best cornerback in a great cornerback room is significantly more valuable and impressive than the best cornerback in a crappy cornerback room. So loved that from Trey. Loved hearing it. Not surprised to hear that from him. I was going to talk to him about penalties a little bit more, but given that it was a little bit of a sensitive topic, I decided to steer clear. He only had one penalty in his first year, his rookie year, but then he did have 9 penalties last year. And that's not insignificant. It's a decent number of penalties. And with the way the NFL rules are, they're heavily slanted towards the offense. He's going to have to clean that up. So that's another part of his game, and maybe one of the bigger parts of his game that it's going to have to change in order for him to be really at the top of the position group, not only for the Seahawks, but for him to make a bag when he becomes a free agent next year. I think the Seahawks are in a position where they don't necessarily now have to keep Trey Brown next year because they drafted a couple corners. We'll see if any of those corners actually pan out. Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me if they decide they do want to bring Trey Brown back. This is just his whole life has led up to this year. At least his whole life as a football player has led up to this year. And this year is going to define whether he has a big second contract and more notoriety. I think he's got Pro Bowl potential. And I don't say that lightly. I don't just say that because he was on the show. I do believe he's got Pro Bowl potential. I don't think it's the most likely outcome for a lot of reasons, but I do think he has that potential. And man, I would love that guy is an easy guy to root for. I would love to see him fulfill his potential and become the player that I think he's really destined to be. And, you know, injuries have been somewhat of a bugaboo, but he got a full season under his belt last year. And now we'll see what happens coming in this year. And it was interesting to hear that he's wanting to get back to being a physical tackler. And you could see it in his face. He appreciated that I noticed and called back to that tackle he made in Pittsburgh as a rookie in his first game. It's a great play. If you haven't seen that play, if you don't remember that play, go back and find it. Against the Steelers in 2021, I believe it was, at Pittsburgh. And I want to say it was either a third down play or a fourth down play. And he managed to break on the ball and stop the ball carrier's momentum and keep him from getting the first down in a play where 99 times out of 100, that player gets the first down. But he just absolute form tackle and was fantastic in that game in general. And that game, I've never been able to get that game out of my head because he's just a sound technique player. He is a good athlete, and he is closer to receivers than most corners. Like, it's just not something you see. He is a good cover corner. So I really, really, really happy we got a chance to talk to Trey. Hopefully we'll do that some more as the season goes on. But great guy. I think very much a potentially great player for this team. So I think we're going to wrap there. Normally we go for an hour, but I think that's the extent of it. One of the things I'm going to try to come back and do tomorrow morning to keep on the cornerback route or topic, I should say. I want to talk about the cornerback room and how this corner room can kind of play out, who the people are that are in it, where they fit, what positions they can play, can't play, and maybe slay a few myths about some of these guys that people might not know. We'll talk about some of their numbers. We'll talk about some of the evaluations. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow morning as we get back to actually being in the mornings. And if you haven't already, please give the show a like, click subscribe, and go over to patreon.com/hawkblogger. Sign up, get access to the audio version of this, as well as all the other Hawk Blogger mornings and other emergency pods and all that kind of stuff, as well as to the Slack channel where the conversation continues throughout the day, throughout the weekends, all that good stuff. And join as a YouTube member. The link is pinned to the chat. It's also in the description of the video. And I appreciate all of you. Appreciate you guys coming in, checking out this interview. And I'm hopeful we got some more coming. I will definitely have more guests as we go. But until the next time, which should be tomorrow morning, I'm Brian M. Hauser. This has been another edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings.